The head of Guyana's electoral body says there can be no polls before almost year-end. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Tuesday, March 19th. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. The chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission, GCOM, on Tuesday officially informed President David Granger that regional and general elections can only be held in November at the earliest. Retired Justice James Patterson delivered the news on the day that the opposition had been insisting was the deadline for elections to be held, in keeping with the Constitution after the no-confidence motion that brought down the coalition government on December 21st last year. In a letter to President David Granger on Tuesday, Patterson wrote, quote, "I would proffer that the Commission would be in a position to conduct general and regional elections no earlier than late November, with an official list of electors having a qualifying date of 31st of October 2019, end quote. President Granger had said he could not announce a date for the polls until he got guidance from GCOM about when it could be ready for credible elections. In his correspondence to Granger, Patterson indicated that he had been advised by the Chief Elections Officer that given all current considerations, $3.5 billion Guyana dollars was required for GCOM to hold credible elections. He stressed that critical activities associated with the polls cannot begin without those funds being made available, and no election date should be contemplated less than 5 months after the money is placed at GCOM's disposal. Patterson said that among the Secretariat's proposals is that elections be held after the completion of a new national register of registrants based on a house-to-house registration exercise. He said it was contemplated that exercise would be completed in February next year, but with a significant increase in resources allocated and an adjustment in arrangements for some procurement activities, it could be completed at least 2 months earlier. The GCOM commissioner said once that is achieved, most of the Commission's concerns about credibility and timelines would be addressed, and he appealed to President Granger for his support by, quote, providing the required additional resources and appropriate guidance to those agencies and authorities whose cooperation is required in our objectives, if our objectives are to be achieved, end quote. But in an immediate response, the opposition-nominated GCOM commissioners have distanced themselves from the letter sent to President Granger. Bibi Shadek, Sais Gunraj, and Robson Ben said they were not consulted on the correspondence, and it was a planned move to deliberately delay the elections. They insist the letter should not be allowed to stand because it is a clear violation of the Constitution, which states that elections must be held within 90 days after the passage of a no-confidence motion. The opposition commissioners are adamant there is no need for house-to-house registration to have credible elections.
I have never seen in excess of 4 years on the Commission a document, a policy document, minutes, or any other document which says that house-to-house registration needs to be held at this or that interval. I have never seen that. And we've asked for it on more than one occasions and have not been furnished with that document. So at this stage, anything I hear about the necessity for house-to-house registration, I will disregard because it is not something that is founded in any law that I am aware of or in any policy that has been made available to me. What I am aware of is the necessity for the holding of national elections, which are regional and general elections, within 90 days of the successful passage of a no-confidence motion, which we all know was on the 21st of December 2018. We also know that there has been no extension of the time within which that election ought to have been held, and as a consequence, the necessity for those elections stand as we are today.
We're staying in Guyana, where the Ethnic Relations Commission, the ERC, said its investigation into GCOM's hiring practices has found no evidence to support claims by the opposition that the commission practiced racial discrimination. The investigation began back in July 2018, and the results were released on Monday. We get the details of the findings in this report from Newsroom's BB Katoon.
The investigation was sparked by complaints made by opposition-nominated commissioners to GCOM following the firing of former Deputy Chief Elections Officer Vishnu Prasad. The report concluded that Prasad scored the highest of those who were interviewed for the job at the Elections Commission but was not hired. Instead, Roxanne Myers was chosen for the position.
The practice has been that the applicant with the highest score would be appointed to that position. In this instance, the applicant with the lowest score was preferred against the applicant with the highest score.
That was ERC Commissioner Norris Witter responding to questions from the media at the body's Queenstown-Georgetown office. He explained that in the hiring process, the opposition-nominated commissioners voted in favor of Prasad, while the government-nominated commissioners voted in favor of Myers. The tiebreaker was the chairman's vote, and he casted his vote with the government commissioners. According to ERC Commissioner Norman McLean, when the team met with Justice Retired James Patterson, the chairman of GCOM, on September 6th, he claimed that his vote was premised on Mr. Prasad being shifty.
Management by as the subcommittee awaited the return of Justice Retired Patterson, bearing the documentary evidence on which he claimed to have found that Mr. Prasad was a shifty person who had lied about his qualifications.
The report concluded that Prasad was the first candidate in the history of GCOM who had obtained the highest score and not being appointed. Meanwhile, the ERC was also asked to conduct an inquiry into the employment practices at GCOM in general. The opposition commissioners alleged that GCOM hires personnel of one ethnicity more than others.
Despite the fact that, as you said, there was a report in the media of 90% of the employees belonging to a particular ethnic group, there was no evidence presented by anyone to suggest that that allegation is true.
Witter noted that the complainants were invited to submit their evidence but failed to do so.
Haiti's President Jovenel Moïse says he will soon begin the process of selecting a new prime minister to succeed Jean-Henri Sion, who has been fired. The Chamber of Deputies passed a motion of no confidence in Sion and his government on Monday, forcing them out of office. But Sion says he does not recognize the decision. In the motion to remove the government, 93 lawmakers voted in favor, 6 against, and 3 abstained. President Moïse has written a letter to the Speaker of the Chamber of Deputies informing that he will begin consultations with the Parliament as soon as possible on the selection of a new Prime Minister in accordance with Article 137 of the Constitution. Sion and his 21-member cabinet will remain in office as caretakers until a new prime minister is named. Under Haitian law, a caretaker prime minister and government can only oversee the country's day-to-day affairs and cannot enter any new contracts. Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister Gaston Brown is slamming the European Union's recent tax blacklist, saying it is prejudicial. The Europeans have included several Caribbean countries, Trinidad and Tobago, Belize, Barbados, Bermuda, Dominica, and Aruba, on the new list, which they said was based on an intense process of analysis and dialogue. The Dominica and Belize governments have publicly condemned the EU's position, and Prime Minister Brown said moves are underway to get CARICOM to issue a statement indicating that the body deplores the attack and will resist it.
In the first instance, the European Union has no jurisdiction. They have no right to be issuing any such sanction lists. And I see they call it a blacklist. We also see that as an affront. It is prejudicial. And what is happening here is that they are trying to avoid tax competition. They're literally overriding our sovereignty to decide on our rate of tax and trying to recover monies that really do not exist.
Still to come, Trinidad and Tobago's Attorney General dismisses calls that he be the subject of a criminal probe. Stay with us.
twist, non-stop turn and twist.
What up, it's your boy French Montana.
It's me, Smokey Robinson.
It's your boy David Doe.
Hi, I'm Elme.
This is Buju Banton, and I'll be performing live with the Shiloh Band in St. Kitts Music Festival.
Don't miss the 23rd Annual St. Kitts Music Festival, June 26th to June 30th, 2019, featuring Buju Banton, Smokey Robinson, Popcorn, and Elme. Also, Davido, French Montana, Fimba, Edwin Yearwood and Crossfire, Coco T, Skinny Fabulous, Shal Marshall, Charlie Black, Farmer Nappy, Nadia Batson, Infamous, New Vibes Band, and many, many more. It will be epic. It will be mind-blowing. It will be jaw-dropping. It will be awesome. The St. Kitts Music Festival, an experience like no other. For more information and to buy tickets, log on to www.stkitsmusicfestival.com.
We continue in Trinidad and Tobago, where Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi has dismissed a call by opposition leader Kamla Prasad Besessar for the police to conduct a criminal probe into his activities. The opposition leader's calls came amid allegations that Al-Rawi had breached sections of the Prevention of Corruption Act. Addressing a public meeting of her United National Congress on Monday night, Prasad Besessar said that Al-Rawi and his wife are the owners of a building being leased to the government for $644,000 TT per month for a 3-year period. But in an immediate response, Al-Rawi said the agreement was all above board, and he says he's not at all conflicted. The Attorney General added that he is not perturbed by the opposition leader's call for a criminal probe into the transaction.
Well, that's all hogwash and fanciful. What is the misbehavior? Really, Mrs. Prasad Besessar's indictment is against the entire cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago. There is, what is the misbehavior? Let me make it clear, I'm a person in public life. I expect that I will be subjected to public scrutiny, and I prepare myself for that at all points in time. The registry of the company's registry is a public record. The Ministry of Public Administration is a public record. The letters coming from Munila's ministries in 2012 and coming from the Personnel Division in 2009 are matters of public record.
Staying in the Twin Island Republic, President of the Public Services Association, PSA, Watson Duke, on Tuesday accused both the government and the opposition of neglecting the working class. This as judiciary employees stayed away from their jobs for a second straight day. The workers are participating in what the PSA called a holiday for justice after the union said their jobs were being threatened under a restructuring program being undertaken by the judiciary on September 1st. Judicial support officers, court marshals, ushers and auxiliary staff assigned to the 3 high courts and 13 magistrates courts stayed away from work. On Tuesday morning, Duke led union members and workers in a bonfire protest on the top of the union's headquarters. We get more in this report from Carissa Lee of CNC3 News.
Watson Duke believes the current issues in the judiciary stem from this country's political leaders.
We are burning jerseys, the red jerseys and the yellow jerseys, we are burning them on the rooftop.
Speaking on the Morning Brew, Mr. Duke says many have suffered at the hands of the PNM and the UNC, and the judiciary's latest restructuring exercise will only impact a specific class.
For years we sat and we voted for you, and you have done nothing. Nothing to get us out of this rut. We're still the working poor. We're still grappling with circumstances beyond our control that we will call dinosaur environment. We're still grappling with that. When they go to licensing office, they wait long, and they bring the public service down. We are tired of that. The public service, my members, my people I represent, 80,000 of them, we are saying this time we are voting for good salaries, good environment, productivity. We are voting for ourselves.
Mr. Duke believes the workers in the judiciary love their jobs and has a suggestion for those in authority.
Find a way to redeploy them within this new system. So you train them systematically and you redeploy them within the system. So in other words, instead of cutting the fat out, instead of doing some type of a belly surgery, you simply do exercise, you turn the fat into muscle.
And if his suggestion is ignored,
the dialogue that we want, unless it could take place in the street, we are going to enter Parliament and control the dialogue from inside. This is why this time we try to talk to them on the street, you know. And if they don't listen, we'll get into Parliament at the next election and we will control Parliament.
The World Bank on Tuesday approved a $27 million project to support the construction of a 7-megawatt geothermal power plant in Dominica. The geothermal risk mitigation project is expected to significantly lower electricity costs in the island and increase the share of renewable energy in the country's energy mix from 25 to 51%, reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 38,223 tons of carbon dioxide per year. It will also assess the potential to export homegrown geothermal energy to Dominica's neighbors. Following the passage of Hurricane Maria in 2017, at least 75% of Dominica's power network was damaged, leaving the entire island without electricity. In response, the government adopted the National Resilient Development Strategy, which sets out Dominica's vision to become the first climate-resilient country in the world. And diversifying the energy mix is a key element of that strategy. Ahead in sport, Cricket West Indies responds to claims it has admitted liability in a legal case brought by former head coach Phil Simmons. We'll be right back.
Yeah, even Democrats who, tend to, be a little more sympathetic to socialist governments abroad, they cannot believe this, and I can't either. I mean, I hope this finishes him once and for all, because I'm kind of tired, of
Uncle Bernie?
I mean, what's interesting though is he's going to have, it's funny because he thinks he's going to have an easier time of it this time, and he actually said something that was very honest, but I'm surprised he said it out loud.
So we've added some vegetable oil here, and Molly is first going to add the onions here. So that's the curry paste now. So the 2 minutes is up, and Molly is adding the hassa here now.
Cricket West Indies has responded to claims by ESPN Cricinfo that it admitted liability in a legal case brought against it by former head coach Phil Simmons and could have to pay damages of up to $400,000. The board, in a release, argued that it had never denied liability in Simmons' dismissal for no other reason than to ensure an amicable resolution in the interest of West Indies cricket. CWI stated, quote, "The negotiations with the former coach Phil Simmons and his representatives are ongoing. While we have a hearing date for March 26, 2019, we are hoping to reach a settlement soon," end quote. Trinidadian Simmons was abruptly axed in September 2016, just 6 months after overseeing West Indies' capture of the 2020 World Cup over what CWI termed differences in culture and strategic approach. CWI also disputed claims that the budget for the office of President Dave Cameron had risen to $500,000. It said the budget for the 2018-2019 period was actually just over $258,000 and less than $62,000 had been spent as of January 31st. CWI further refuted the claim in the report that Cameron had asked the board to approve an increase in monthly stipend from $2,000 to $10,000, with the board finally agreeing to a monthly stipend of $6,000. Meanwhile, Cameron is rubbishing reports that there is bad blood between him and CARICOM prime ministers, In an interview with Sports Max, Cameron, who has been defending his record in the run-up to elections, which will be held later this month, said that contrary to popular belief, he enjoyed a very good relationship with CARICOM leaders, and there were only 2 or 3 with whom he did not see eye to eye. He didn't identify those with whom he has differences, but Dr. Ralph Gonzalez of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Keith Mitchell of Grenada, and Trinidad and Tobago's Dr. Keith Rowley have been especially vocal in their criticisms of Cameron and the organization. Tensions flared after CARICOM endorsed the 2015 governance report, which recommended the immediate dissolution of the CWI and the appointment of an interim board whose structure and composition would be radically different from the now proven obsolete governance framework.
I get the impression CARICOM, and it's not CARICOM, and I think we keep saying CARICOM. There are 2 or 3 prime ministers who have a view. There are a number of other prime ministers who have a contrary view. And if you know prime ministers, they're not going to come out publicly and fight against each other. And Prime Minister Gonzalez and Mitchell are elder statesmen within the CARICOM setup. But we have relationships, and excellent relationships with Prime Minister Chastanet, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit of Dominica. The Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister has written me a note publicly supporting what we're doing. Relationship with the Prime Minister in Barbados, relationship with the Prime Minister. As a matter of fact, I have personal relationship with Gonzalez and Prime Minister Mitchell as well. So again, I say to you, there are no issues. We have no personal issues. The Prime Ministers believe that the structure needs to change. The structure is not Dave Cameron's structure. The structure is West Indies cricket structure. For the structure to change, all the territorial boards have to say that this is what we want. And these prime ministers are prime ministers of these countries. All they need to do is instruct their board to change the structure accordingly. Why is that Dave Cameron's problem?
Staying with cricket, Guyana Jaguars captain Leon Johnson says team preparation was the reason behind the team's success in the just concluded Regional 4-Day Championship. Jaguars last weekend won their 5th consecutive title in the tournament. Speaking with DBS Radio, Johnson hailed his side's performance between the wickets and on the field.
I think there are a lot of factors that go into a championship winning season, but I think preparation obviously was one of the main reasons. I think we prepared well for every game that we went into. I think every game that we played, the surfaces were different, and we trained, prepared ourselves for what we expected on those kind of surfaces. So I think our preparations were good, and it's not just obviously batting and bowling or whatever, but we did a lot of fielding drills and stuff like that. But what we expected to happen in the game, and we prepared ourselves well.
Meanwhile, TNT Red Force head coach Mervyn Dillon is also pleased with the performance of his Chargers, despite them finishing 4th on 114 points. They'd whipped Jamaica Scorpions by 85 runs in their final match at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy. And in this report by Ruskin Mark of TTT Sports, we hear that Dillon is already looking forward to the next season.
The Red Force set Jamaica 338 to win, and their bowlers did the job despite 133 from Brandon King. TNT duly wrapped up the innings just after the tea break, with Imran Khan ending with 3 for 48 and the Jamaican import Odin Smith adding 3 for 56 in support. Anderson Phillips added 2 for 54 to go along with his maiden 5-4 in the first innings, as Jamaica got shut out for 252, handing TNT victory by 85 runs.
I'm really happy with the victory. Jamaica had been playing some really good cricket at the back end of the season, so we knew it wasn't going to be an easy game. They made us work for it, and I'm really happy with the outcome.
As for him personally, Dillon has a good feeling about the job he's done and the players taking to his methods.
It's been interesting for me. Like I said, it's new. I definitely didn't want to come in and kind of impose myself. It's been kind of a learning curve with the guys, and I get to understand each other. The respect that I got from the guys really helped in terms of how I manage the team. So I look forward to the tournaments coming up. But I totally enjoyed it. I mean, most of the guys I know because I played with them, later on in my career and that kind of thing. So it made it really enjoyable, and the guys seem to enjoy having me around, so I'm really happy about that.
Well, switching sports, Guyana Football Association President Wayne Ford believes the Golden Jaguars' entrance in the CONCACAF Gold Cup will open windows of opportunity for players on the international stage. The senior men's squad is set to face Belize on Saturday in a crucial qualifying match for the tournament, and Ford stressed the importance of the game and the impact it will have on the future of Guyana football.
We are at the threshold of destiny. They are given a monumental task to set in motion what could be the journey for all the young players that will come after them. When these young men take us to the Gold Cup, the football world will shift some of its focus onto Guyana. They will get a feel for the talent that we have. That will create international opportunities for some of our players.
And that's the sport. We'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
Dance jump up to this non-stop turn and twist.
What up, it's your boy French Montana.
It's me, Smokey Robinson.
It's your boy David Doe.
Hi, I'm Ella May.
This is Buju Banton, and I'll be performing live with the Shiloh Band in St. Kitts Music Festival.
Don't miss the 23rd Annual St. Kitts Music Festival, June 26th to June 30th, 2019. Featuring Buju Banton, Smokey Robinson, Popcorn, and Ella May. Also, Davido, French Montana, Fimba, Edwin Yearwood and Crossfire, Coco T, Skinny Fabulous, Shal Marshall, Charlie Black, Farmer Nappy, Nadia Batson, Infamous, New Vibes Band, and many, many more. It will be epic. It will be mind-blowing. It will be jaw-dropping. It will be awesome. The St. Kitts Music Festival, an experience like no other. For more information and to buy tickets, log on to www.stkittsmusicfestival.com.
And the major developments of this day, the head of Guyana's Elections Commission says there can be no polls before late November. And in sport, Cricket West Indies responds to claim that it has admitted liability in a wrongful dismissal case brought by former Windies head coach Phil Simmons. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport round the clock, subscribe to CanadaNews.com, and for more programming, log on to caravision.tv and check out our YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and good night.